Good evening, everyone. Welcome to EduTALK. EduTALK is a virtual talk show often on a weekly basis, created out of the need for a global learning community. And we focus on topics in education that directly impact Caribbean nations and diaspora nationals working across the board. Diaspora nationals meaning the African diaspora, which is mostly in the Caribbean and elsewhere. And so we feature teachers, principals, and administrators, as well as sometimes students and their parents at times. And we focus on topics that are relevant to education and educational personnel across our region. And this evening, we want to talk about the it's like kind of like an elephant in the room where it concerns with teachers and administrators, because we focus on how we spend, what we spend on, and how we balance our budget. We make a budget and we try to stick to it throughout the year. And sometimes it's very hard to squeeze money. I'm your host, I'm Dr. Dwayne Dice, and we have, of course, my co-host here, Dr. Miguel Barca, writer, almost songwriter, writer, and a very prolific and energetic school administrator as well. Dr. Barker, we are in our last week, roughly, of July 2023, and it's summer, you know, where we look at some of the aspects of our daily living to find out, are we spending a whole lot? Are we spending just as much? And how much are we saving in terms of our salary, our wages, what we bring in, how much do we keep as educators, and how much do we invest, and so on. So we say we invest in our kids, but we need some more tangible investments such as house and land,
Yeah, yeah,
cars, and so on. And as well as taking care of ourselves with self-care, financial health.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
our thing is for this evening to talk briefly, just candidly, about this idea of financial literacy for educators, meaning financial health. Are we healthy financially in terms of our plans? What are we doing in the summer when we are off from school? What are some of the thinkings that we have when we go home during the summer? What should we be doing to prepare ourselves for next year? That's where we want to tailor this, this evening
okay.
discussion.
All right. Good evening to our listeners. I'm sure this is a topic that many people would like to, uh, hear a discussion being convened about. I mean, as a teacher, quite likely finance is a big thing for teachers, right? And then, I think there's nowhere in the world really that
Mhm.
teachers earn enough that they don't say, I have to think about money and balancing budgets and,
Yeah.
you know, but, and I suppose one of the good things about a job like teaching is you get paid evenly throughout the year. So at least you learn to live on what you have. I think the difficulty is when you get into like the summer,
Mhm.
where you're not necessarily doing the day-to-day
Yeah.
of teaching that consumes that your plan tends to be adapted to. So when
Mhm.
you get into teaching and you have to know organize holidays and manage your spending in that time, you know, and I suppose that's where the challenge comes in. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, depending on the way how the family is structured,
Mhm.
sometimes the one person is teaching and the other person isn't, and so
Yeah.
it's another thing,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's very true. And one of the things that you mentioned too that we can talk a little bit about is the fact that some teachers, teachers don't get paid a lot of money compared to some other professions, and we know this already historically. Um, and going home in the summer, as you said, we look at staying home, having that bulk of time between activities. Maybe you binge watch some TV shows, and so you eat more out of your salary rather than if you were, for example, some teachers in some schools will feed from the canteen or the cafeteria. So in the summer, you're spending more money on food for you and your family, depending on the size of your family. So that causes you to think about how much you're spending, how much it costs you when you're alone with food, and then looking at the benefits of the school that you're working in, how much of it you get back, that benefit for yourself and for your family. And I know for one, we start to talk about money. Say, don't eat this, wait until dinner time. We can't travel there. Let's do this. So a lot of hiking go on in certain parts
Yeah.
of our region. But you have the time. You do have the time to look at some of the areas in which, or you should look at some of the areas that you're spending too much on. For example, one of the things that I see and I talk to people about is you don't have to rent that movie. You don't have to rent that movie to go and watch it. You could wait for a few weeks until it comes on TV or it comes on Netflix. You wait until it runs its course in the movie theaters, and then or some of the things that you buy for your kids, they can actually make those things. Take the summer to make it. Like the toys that you and I grew up on, Miguel,
Yeah, yeah.
where we didn't have money to buy toys. We actually make these little trucks out of drinks boxes,
I
and
remember.
yeah, and the top of the bottles to use to make wheels. So this is a time when you can say, hey, let's put the financial things in perspective here. Let's not spend money on this. Let's get some recycled objects. Let's
Yeah.
build something instead of buying it.
Yeah, and the thing is, uh the there is a need certainly to stick to a budget,
Yeah.
stick to a budget. That's the first thing that would be advised when it gets to a summertime. Stick to the budget, have a budget. And if it's wise, you could save for that budget from the year start to put aside, $40 a month, $50 a month, or whatever you figure you want to put aside. So when the summer comes around, especially if you have kids, you have a budget that you're working through, because it doesn't take much to slice through a lot of your savings just because you're trying to manage the summer. And especially if you have kids, it does cost money to manage the summer. But on a more long-term look as well, I suppose we could look at, as a professional, how much do we understand money? And a way to think about it is, let's say you were washing some clothes that maybe you didn't wear them, like a suit. Like you take up a suit that you didn't wear for a long time. Like, you maybe wear it even 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And when you decide that, it's time to wear this suit again, you dig into one of the pockets, and what come out of the pocket is, let's say, $100.
Yeah.
You take out $100, right? So this $100 has been sitting in that suit for 15 years, 10 years. Let's say 10 years, just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say it's in your pocket for 10 years and you take out this $100 today.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, whoa, I find $100. Now, here's a question that you can ask yourself, right? Can that $100 that you just found in your pocket buy what it could buy then?
Yeah.
So money hasn't changed, it's $100 that has sat in your pocket. And if you had found it on that day, you would have used it to buy whatever you want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, if you had that $100, now you have found this $100. A question is, can it buy what it could buy then?
Then, yeah.
Money hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's an important lesson about how
Yeah.
money works
Yes.
and why even having money doesn't really mean anything unless you are growing your money.
Yes.
Because I guarantee you will check and realize that what you can buy with that same $100 10 years ago, you cannot buy it right now. You
Mm.
might find that the value of that $100 is now $75 in terms of what you could get.
The value, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, a good way to look at it is maybe in 10 years ago, buying a tank of petrol, for example, with that $100, that would maybe give you 4 tanks or 3 tanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Now
true.
it can only give you 2,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the same $100 hasn't changed. It's the same money. The only difference is time that has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it has lost value. So the question mark is, and that's what happens to money
Mm-hmm.
if you just keep saving it, but don't do anything, grow it. And I think professionals, teachers, me, you need to understand that fundamental idea about money, that if if you spend it in the time, which is maybe a feature of your existence, but if you're saving or if you're just keeping the money somewhere but not earning, and most banks haven't been paying any interest,
Yeah,
right? They're
yeah.
not paying anything.
Nothing at
So
all.
in reality,
Mm-hmm.
in the idea of not earning additional, if your money is not working, it is losing value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important thing for people to understand. So it simply means that we need to start thinking about investing,
Mm-hmm.
getting into buying property,
Yeah,
additional property,
yeah,
stocks,
yes.
bonds,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things that grow
Mm-hmm.
over time, investing in a business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Generating income.
yeah. So
Mm.
that lesson is an important one about money. If you just have your money in a bank account growing, even if it, I could extrapolate that idea to say you had 100,000. You might find that no, that same 100,000 can only do what 75,000 can do now. So over time, you have lost $25,000, even though in your mind
You
you have
still
saved.
100, yeah.
When you see the 100, it not do what. So you might go, well, me have 100, me still have 100, me still have 100, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
A
So it's
practical, one of the practical exam, it's a very life, what do you call that now? It's life lesson that you just mentioned there. Because when you talk, I was thinking about the fact I went to Jamaica the other day and I just said, hey, give me 3 patties. I want 3 patties because Juliana and I were there and Juliana loved patties. And I bought the patties and I said to the lady afterwards, I said, how much is it? How much is the patty? And she said I think it's $221 for 1 patty. And I said, oh my God, I left Jamaica. It's 11 years now. And I could buy 2 or 3 patties with that.
well,
Yeah.
I remember the memory that I have of buying patty and knowing the price.
Yeah.
Patty then was like say 1990. I'm gonna say 1991.
Yeah.
I remember buying a patty because the point that you're making, is connected to the point that I am making.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you had 100 Jamaican
yeah,
dollars,
yeah.
right, to
And you'd
keep it
save it.
simple, and you just lost it in a pocket, it possibly it's now one
Yeah,
pocket, or you open up one folder where you look for something, and
yeah.
the $100 drop out of it, and you go, right, did me find 100 Jamaican dollar. Now, in 1990, you might be able to buy 100 patties with that $100. 100,
True.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's very, very true.
You
That's
might be able to buy 100. If you couldn't buy 100, you could certainly buy 90 patties with it,
yeah,
right? So you could keep a big event and everybody will get a patty for
yeah,
1 Jamaican dollars, right?
yeah,
Now, we're knowing 30 years later, yeah, 32 years later, you
yeah.
just find this, somebody give you some from old pictures where you used to have and say, you know, long my your grandparents used to say, if you get this, I mean, this fine. Or you open a search through one box and you find the $100 and you say, watch out me $500. No, you're telling me you can't even get a half a patty with it, right?
You can't do anything. No bag
Not,
juice, nothing.
not even a half a patty you cannot get for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
those examples give an idea of how money or how important it is that your money is growing. Because if it is not growing and stays at the same value, I mean, you just have it under the mattress, as people say. You know, no value over time, you're just losing. So you have to invest your money, you have to find a way to grow your money if you have it. Otherwise, you're just pretty much losing value. And that is a stark example of what you could buy with the money. And now over time,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
what you
and
can.
the summer really afford us as educators the time to think about these things. So if you used to do something, because I know Jamaican and Caribbean teachers, for the most part, they love their partner, where they drop money.
Yeah.
And over the year, if you look at that and you say, okay, I try this, I make a little bit, let me do something else. So this time is actually to evaluate everything that you're doing, analyze everything, and see how best you can change certain certain strategies that you use, financial strategies that you use, and then move on from that, as you said, to generate more income, to put investment in a different way so that you can make more. One thing that I thought of when you were talking is the buying of property, land, to buy land, because even if you have the money in a bank and it will not grow, but you have a piece of land and it's definitely increasing in value. No matter where it is, I shouldn't say no matter where it is, because some of it, it will lose value sometimes, but you always have somewhere that you can put a house on and it increase in value. Once you put even a sheet of zinc on that property, increase in value.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least it retains the value.
It retains the value to, it's like a high-end vehicle.
Yeah, because if you had $100 that you had invested in, 1990, as we're using the example, and in 30 years later, that investment allows you to buy, because if we're going to buy $220 if you're a party,
yeah, roughly.
so we need at 100, we need what, 22,000 Jamaican dollar to buy 100 patty.
That's rent for some people, you know.
But what I say is, if you are able to have invested $100 in order to now be able to buy the same thing that you could have bought then, that's what the turnover would have to look like, and the growth is the invested returns would have to look like in order to retain the value. If we're using the Patty index, as we're
Patty index. Hey, Barca, that's a very good approach, to looking at this thing, because I'm hoping this is a learning curve for some people, because as you invented this Patty index system. Like, people can use this as a yardstick to measure what they're doing per year. And every summer, they take their kids and sit around a table and say, okay, let's pull in together. Let's use the Patty index to judge how much investment we have done for this year. If we can maximize, and what our projections going to look like for next year using. It's a very good approach. What exactly? Go on. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just supporting what you were saying.
Oh, what exactly you would say to somebody if they say, hey, I'm not doing that. My money is safe in the bank. I hear what you're saying, but
are safe under my mattress.
Are safe under your mattress or in a shoes box.
Well, the example I just gave them is exactly why your mattress is the only place you shouldn't keep it.
Yeah.
That's the reason, at least in a bank. All right, so here's another caveat to that, right? And that's why the example I gave is exactly the example that I gave. Because $100, while it's so the point is that one, if I had kept that $100 in a bank account, and over time I'm saving in and out and using money from that and putting money back in. So if each year me draw 50 and put another 50 in and draw 50 and put another 20 or 30 and keep it at $100.
Yeah.
The value of the $100 would have been maintained because I'm putting in $100 values
Yes, yes.
at this point in time. So maybe at the time to maintain it as a $100 balance, it might take a lot more of percentage of my salary. Keep it going, but by when we get to year 20, it might just be like, right, we just need to keep it at 100.
Yeah,
And it might just be change that you get from a taxi ride or something. And then by the time you get to know, it might just be like you're struggling to even find the currency to meet the balance. But that $100 would have lived the time and no actually value $100 because I would have been using the money back and forth. You know, like if I withdraw at the end of every year and put another 100 in, then the value of the $100 is the value of the $100.
Yeah, yeah.
But the example I gave is a genuine one because that $100 is the same. Sorry, the same money I would have had then, the exact same people.
Yeah,
And that's not gone through any, would I've said, revaluation over time. So it has stayed as the same money and therefore retain the same properties of that money.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that money now, in principle, hasn't done anything that
Nothing.
should have lost its value and hasn't done anything to maintain, to keep up with the time. But if time had kept constant, that money should be able to do what it did then because it's the same paper. But the point is, over time, sitting stagnant under a mattress, the value has evaporated to the point where that money has no value whatsoever. While in the past, that would have been able to say to 100 friends, make you eat a pot, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a difference to the point. So there's a caveat to money in that sense, because if we are replacing the money, then the value is it's revalued each time to the current value, and its value, its real value in the time. So
and to add to that too, people need to take risk. They really need to take calculated risk with these so that they redistribute, they get the value of their financial status will increase as they redistribute financial assets around and increase. And it also contribute to their financial health as well, where they can see how the systems work around them. But if they just stay in one place and feel timid or fear and don't want to try to invest, then they will not learn. First of all, people are not going to learn anything.
They lose value.
And them themselves will lose value as well because they're not going to grow. They're never going to grow with the financial astute that you should have.
Yeah, man. All right.
Yeah. I hope people learn something from this too, because we took a different approach to financial literacy. And when we look at people, we know, because we're coming from those type of families where they said, no, I'm not going to invest in that because I'm going to lose my money. And it's best if I keep this money because I still have it. If I keep the $100, I still have it. Next year, I still have it. But it's not the same value. It's the same money, but it's not the same value. So I hope.
If it's on their mattress, the value is losing. And the example is exactly why.
Lisa Hanna did a story recently in the Gleaner about commercial banks, and she highlighted what is happening with the money, that the profits and gains and so on with National Commercial Bank, the NCB Bank in Jamaica, and to see how much money that bank alone is pulling in, and very, very little return to the Jamaican populace, it really we need to reconsider commercial banks. Really, really.
Well, we know that the banking system in Jamaica is not, I mean, you live overseas, you see how the banks operate. People still having to pay for services that are free in
Yeah,
many other countries.
it's
But
horrible.
we don't know the ins and outs of the legislation. And I think it's the law, the politicians who have the power to
Yeah,
to redress to organize the banking system in such a way that it is not as parasitic. You know, I mean, I saw someone posted something um online that says it's easier to open a can of tasty cheese than to open a bank account in Jamaica. And
yeah, it's true.
you know, say open a can of cheese and a easy work.
No, because you have to hit it and bend the little parts
A
around
lot of work
and
and
hit it
to
till it
not
roll
break
it.
it up is another skill. So
Yeah,
it was just to provide a kind of juxtaposition to the challenges to
yeah.
open up an account. So
It's
yeah,
true because the non-profit branch, we launched it in Jamaica, and my God, it was a painstaking thing. We waited at the bank there in halfway tree for 3 hours to open a business account. 3 hours,
shouldn't
four
have
hours.
to.
I just told Julie, I said, listen, let's go because this is foolishness. And I argued with the person who was at the counter there. I said, honestly, you guys are corrupt. You're very corrupt. All right. Barker, thank you so much for being on. I wish everybody all the best. I wish you all the best for this week. Enjoy the last couple of days. We're what, 23rd, 20, this is the 25th of July. We'll see everybody next week. It's almost Jamaican emancipendence next week. Well, good, everybody. Thank you very much, Miguel. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, yeah, man. Good. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. See you next week on our channel. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.